Hello everyone, my name is Angeline Gahaza and I'm based here in Cape Town, South Africa, but I'm originally from Northern Zimbabwe. I am so humbled and excited to be on this global platform, sharing the stage with a lineup of strong, amazing women that are owning their stories and using them to change the world and changing lives. I'm going to be telling you a story about how Uplift a Sister was birthed. Uplift a Sister is a sisterhood movement that I and two of my friends, Rumbizaya Mutendera and Chipo Wacha, founded last year. This was after I walked away from what I now recognize to be a toxic and emotionally abusive relationship. And immediately after walking away, I knew I had to do some work to raise awareness on emotional abuse. But I also wanted to create a platform that uplifted women in general, that gave a safe space for women to be vulnerable, to speak about the taboo topics, the issues that are affecting all of us, but in isolation because we think we're the only ones. And so I was lucky enough to have friends that understood the visions and bought into it because they too had experienced some things in isolation that they later found were common, and it would have served them better had they had people to relate to. And because this was my general feeling, I am using my story in any platform that I can find to raise the awareness on my situation, to be an example of how vulnerability is not going to cause stigma. In fact, it's going to squash it. So, my story is about emotional abuse, something that I am still learning right now, because before the situation, before my relationship with my ex, I understood nothing about emotional abuse. I actually just believed emotional abuse was verbal abuse, but there is a lot of things that go into it. And I would say from my experience that if I had to choose, I would say physical abuse would have been better than emotional abuse. But then again, I cannot choose that. And this experience has given me the voice that I cannot take back, because I feel that there is work that needs to be done to change how women are being treated all over the world. So 3 years before last year, July, when I walked away, I met this guy, a charming prince who loved me like no other man has ever loved me. I say this because he was giving me the type of love that I thought I was wanting and needing. It was my idea of love. And that was just basically validation and affirmation. So nothing else mattered. I threw caution out of the wind. I had the perfect man who was validating me. But on the other hand, he was the same man who was making me feel miserable, the worst that I've ever felt in any other relationship. I never took time to interrogate the fact that one person could make me feel two extremes at the same time. I was more focused on keeping the relationship because I had finally found it and I was not going to let it go. But what that entailed was I had to continuously reinvent myself. I had to keep changing for my partner, because nothing I did was good enough. I was always wrong. I was always doing the same things. I was not listening. I was making things in my head, making things up in my head. I really basically just was my own worst enemy, because if I was failing to change, I was never going to be happy. These are all things that I was made to feel. And at that time, because I genuinely believe this person loved me and everything that they were doing was for me, I had to keep trying to change. I had to keep trying to do what they were saying. But part of me, my heart was telling me, this was not right. Yes, they talk about marriages being hard. Yes, they talk about marriages being difficult and you need to be strong and you need to pray. But this surely couldn't be it. considering that I had found the perfect guy and I knew what happiness felt like, the holistic feeling was not supposed to be like that. So I was constantly in an internal battle with myself. But what that meant was I was feeling that I was imagining things. I started losing self confidence. There's a lot of other reasons that verbal abuse that was happening during the time I was with my partner, that just crippled me. I didn't feel like I could speak out and speak up about anything because he made sure that I understood that my English language, or my command of the English language, was poor, and I didn't understand half the things that you were saying as a 32-year-old who's been using English as a more way of the language of communication everywhere. I started to feel like I was a fraud, an imposter. And so I didn't really feel as confident as I was before or prior to meeting this guy. And to make matters worse, because my mind knew I was being abused, when it was happening, I felt the frustration, and I had to do something to stop it, because I'd realized that speaking about it and trying to argue was not working. I resorted to self-harming. So I remember the first time I pulled my own hair, I would punch my face, I would pinch my knee, my thighs. And I now that I am talking about it, and now that I am unpacking it, I know that it was probably a way for me to remind myself that I'm not crazy. Yes, I was feeling so much pain that it was better for me to hurt myself because I'd see the bruises later. But the only thing is, I was not allowed to speak to anyone, not my friends, not my family, about what was going on in the relationship. And out of respect for my partner, I felt that I didn't need to. I needed to respect him and be good, and that would change my life. So continuously, I would be falling flat on my face, because one day I'm excited, I'm living my best life, and just in the next minute or so, I could be crying, and it was all my fault. And that roller coaster of emotion just ended up leading me to have suicidal thoughts. Sometimes I'd be hysterical. I would go to women's conferences, to church, and everywhere to try and hear what other women were talking about, so that I can identify what was going on with me, but to no avail. The people that I did share with, which were two of my husband's relatives, were really helpful. They were understanding of my situation, but it was never enough, because it never changed my situation, and I was having to put a lid on my emotions and not share with anyone. And that was, well, we know now that I had to walk away. But when that lid got off, hysteria was the order of the day. I remember one time feeling that it was not my imagination anymore. I knew I was right. I knew that I had done nothing wrong, and I didn't deserve what was happening. And so if every time my partner tried to make me believe otherwise, I would go ballistic, and I would be throwing things around and all of that. And that didn't change for days. And at that point, I realized, because I'd been reading about psychology and all of that, that something must be wrong. So I spoke to my mom, who advised me to take some time out. And once I did that, I realized that I had a lot of feelings that I was not interrogating, that I was not confronting. And after a while being in communication with my partner, I realized we're not on the same page. Probably never really were, because of the state of my mind during the time I went in, and the things that I didn't do. I realized that there was so much responsibility that I didn't take going into this situation. And so I was frustrated with myself, at the same time trying to conform with society and to please everyone who had celebrated our union, that I didn't choose myself. And that is where the whole issue of self-love comes in. And so all of that, after understanding it, I realized that this platform that I started was supposed to, or is supposed to, look at cultivating self-love. Because once I got to the decision, I had to pray for God to open, to open my heart and my ears to hearing him say it's okay for me to walk away from a marriage. Being a Christian, it was difficult for me to just up and leave a sacred union, even though I knew I was miserable. It took me a lot to get to that decision. And what I like about my support structure is that no one ever really told me what to do. Everyone was just happy to have me out of danger, thinking and working through my emotions, and were ready to take whatever decision I'd make. And so it gave me the time to connect with my God. And I kid you not, I heard God. I met God, and I had a spiritual encounter with him at that time. And he gave me the peace that surpasses all understanding that is in the Bible. And I knew that walking away is what I had to do. But I also knew that I had found my purpose. And funny story, when I got married on the 1st of May 2019, I reinvented my blog and said it was going to be my search for purpose. I believe that I Can Fly is the name of the blog. And in that first blog that I sent out, it said that I wanted God to show me or reveal my purpose. And 1 month into it, I had started the hashtag Uplift a Sister, which was all about celebrating the women in my circle and making sure that they knew they were loved and they were uplifted in everything that they were doing. It was based on a friend of mine who was very helpful when I came to South Africa and I didn't have anything, and she took me in and she didn't ever ask for anything. And I just wanted to celebrate women and to show them that everything that they do, that they do in this world counts. And I started this movement, this hashtag, and it fulfilled me. It was during a time that I was already feeling miserable in my marriage. But I remember getting up every day for 31 days, gathering information, writing blogs about these 31 phenomenal women. And so my purpose had already been revealed, but before the experience, I had not found the revelation that this was it. And after I walked away and after I started looking at what I felt I needed to do, I realized that my purpose was in the experience. I needed to understand what women go through sometimes, the worst of the worst, so that I can be compassionate about the decisions that they make that seem to be off, but are based on cultivating self-love and a responsibility that is on them, but something that has not been talked about much. So this is where I am now. Uplifted Sister has a broadcast, relatable stories that focuses on just the telling of the stories, because enlightenment comes from different stories. We cannot be able to reprogram our minds and transform our minds without knowing what is actually wrong or what is actually wired wrong. And we can only learn about those things when we hear other people's stories, also when we experience some things. But we don't have to wait for experiences anymore, because there are so many strong women that are ready to share their stories. And I've had the pleasure of meeting a number of them. And as the show is going on, I urge you all to come and join the movement, celebrate your friends, celebrate yourself, embark on this self-love journey, because this is the only way that you can tap into your inner power and become the best version of yourself. Without transformation of the mindset, there is no change that can be found. But after you've transformed your mindset, I am living testimony of being best version of yourself is, because within a year I've been happier than I've ever been. I do not have a husband. I do not have a man, but I am happy. And I have found that I've been attracting connections with people like Gertrude, who brought me to this platform, with people like my with people like my current boss right now, who managed to see what I have to offer, and I got a promotion within two months of walking away. And there's so many other things that I cannot say now because I am running out of time, but it has definitely been the best time of my life, because I think, because I've found my purpose and I've connected to the purpose. Now I can hear the inner voice, and I can tap into the inner power that then aligns with the universe to make me the person that I was ever meant to be. And I just wanted to share this with every woman in the world, that it's just as simple as being willing to learn from others, and as simple as being vulnerable, authentic, because it is very healing to share your story and to help other people, because to be human is to love. I hope you guys understand my story and join my movement. So glad that I had the opportunity to speak on this platform. Have a good evening or morning, afternoon, wherever you are.